Hello and welcome to my channel, Israel Awakening Africa. I'm going to continue on the series about connecting the dots. And this series is to show you that the ancient Israelite and the West African and Southern African people today have a striking similarities in their culture and traditional practices, and also at the end of the day, also to prove to you that we are the same people. So I will encourage you to see the first and second episode on connecting the dot for you to understand the contents of what the series is all about. So, and now we are going to be diving into the next topic that we're having today, which is marriage. So, marriage custom, a mirror between ancient Israel and West Africa. So, let's get into this. When we strip away the lies of colonization, we begin to see the truth. West African traditions are not just similar to those of the Israelites, the ancient Israelite. They are the same because the evidence is overwhelming. By the time we get deeper into this episode reveals how the marriage institution proves it. So the previous topic that we have dealt with also proved that we have similarities. The details is so very similar in terms of our practices compared to that of the ancient Israelite. So now I want us to take a look at how we practice our marriage rituals. So how we practice our marriage rituals in West Africa and Southern Africa compared to that of the ancient Israelite. The bride price, the biblical foundation of marriage. So where do we get paying of the bride price from? Marriage in ancient Israel always began with the bride price, a sacred act of honor and covenant. It was commanded by God through Moses. So let's go into this. We're going to find this in the scripture in the book of Exodus, chapter 22, verses 16 to 17. So it reads, if a man seduces a virgin who is not betrothed and lies with her, he must pay the bride price for her to be his wife. So now this is where the idea of we paying a bride price in order for this woman to be a wife stems from, because it's a commandment that was given to Moses by the Most High. And we also see that not just in the scripture, in West Africa, we practice precisely like that. Yeah, likewise in West Africa, a man must first declare his intention by offering gift to the bride's family, such as money, livestock, drinks, fabrics, and symbolic items, just like in biblical Israel. Can you see this? Can you see the similarities? So let's go into Genesis chapter 34, verse 12 to go deeper further into this. So Genesis chapter 34, verse 12 says, ask me as great a bride price and gift as you will, and I will give you whatever you say to me. So this is not about buying a woman. It's not about buying a woman. It's about honoring the covenants, and it still survive today among, let's say, the Yoruba, the Igbo, the Ashanti, Ewe, the Zulu, and many other tribes. So these practices still continue today, you see. So this is how it's been done. Family meeting, no priest, no church, no wedding. So it's just between the bridegroom and between the family of the bride and between the family of the groom. The next step in the biblical marriage wasn't the church service. It was a family agreement, just like I just mentioned. So we're going to see We're going to get more understanding from this in the book of Genesis, chapter 24, verses 3 to 4. It said, Abraham says, swear that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanite, but go to my country and to my relatives. Now, you see, like there's something, let me mention something real quick here. That in the Nigerian culture, before the our fathers, our parents always forbid us intermarrying with other tribes that are not ours, that are not, they don't speak the same language or different tribes. So they hate intermarriage. So they always want us to marry from our tribe. And this is also something that we have seen a lot in the Bible, that Israel were forbidden to marry outside their tribes. So this will be a topic for another time. But we see here in the book of Genesis where Abraham is instructing his servant, Abraham, swear that you will not take a wife for my son from the Canaanite. You understand? He said, go to his relative to take a wife for Isaac, his son. So Israelites were forbidden from mixing with other nations that are other people that are not part of the tribe of Israel. You understand? So now in Genesis chapter 24, verses 33 to 51, Abraham's servant visits Rebekah's father and brother, share his missions and receive their approval. So this is simple. This is how it was done. This is the same in traditional African marriages. The man's elders go to the bride's family to declare the intention. There is no need for a church, pastor, or colonial rituals like they do today. You see, today, after you pay the bride price for the wife, she's still not considered your wife. After you've done the necessary rituals about paying the bride price for your wife, it's still not considered as marriage unless you go to the church, unless you receive the pastor's blessing. And there is no place in the Bible where a church wedding, where a marriage was taking place in the church, or where a priest was blessing people to get married. Without the blessings of the priest, that you cannot get married. It is not biblical. There is no place in the Bible for that stuff. This is what we inherited from the white people when they invaded us, and we assimilate into their own culture and tradition. So now let's move forward. In Genesis chapter 24, verses 58 to 60 says, they call Rebekah and asked, will you go with this man? She said, I will go. And they blessed Rebekah. So this is how we do it. When we go to, when you see a woman that you are interested in, so you take your parents, you go to them, and then when after speaking to the father of the woman, which is the bride, and you receive, first you have to receive the blessings of the father, and then the father will ask if the daughter wants to go with you guys, and if he say yes, then he releases blessing, and she goes with you. So as the man. So this is what we just read now in the book of Genesis, and this is exactly how we did it in West Africa. You can see the striking similarity, the resemblance of these practices. So now let's look at covering of the bride, a shared custom as well. Now, before the bride goes in West African wedding, the bride face is veiled when she appears before the groom, a sign of modesty and reverence and traditions. Now, let's see where we got this from. Or let's see if we can find this exact same practices also in the Bible. So in Genesis chapter 24, verse 64 to 65, Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she took her veil and covered herself. You see, this is not European. It is Asian, and it is ours. So the brides cover their face before they've been presented to the groom. We do it in West Africa, and also we can see in the Bible. So these details, this is not a coincidence. So something else that I would like us to look into is the law of jealousy. Now, What is the law of jealousy? So we can find these in the book of Numbers chapter 5 verses 11 to 31. So this is like a ritual in the Bible, describe a unique rituals to handle marital suspicion. So let's read in Numbers chapter 5 verses 11 to 31. If a man's wife goes astray, the man shall bring his wife to the priest, and she shall drink the bitter water that brings a curse. So, a spiritual rituals was used to test the woman's faithfulness. In pre-colonial West Africa, if a man suspect adultery, he would also take his wife to a local priest or spiritual elder who will perform a ritual test. If found guilty, the woman faced shame or punishment. Now, let me tell you a little bit about this particular topic. You see, there was a post I ran into on Facebook a long time ago, and this is like a group, a small tribe, Igala tribe in Nigeria. So now this lady posted an article, I believe, a small post on our Facebook feed, and she said, "Why is it that in Nigeria, like, well, she was really referring to the Igala tribe, so I'm not." I'm pretty sure it's the same with some of the tribes. So she said, if the man feels like the wife is cheating on him, I beg your pardon, he can do a rituals to verify if the wife is faithful or not. That means he's feeling jealous. So now this lady was now insinuating that why is it that it's only men that have the right to do this? I think she's speaking from what we call feminist ideology now, that everything has to be equal, that men and women share equal right. So her argument was women should also have the right to be able to practice this type of ritual if they feel like their man is cheating on them. So now the point is, I'm trying to point out this issue, this article, that it's line up with the scripture that we just read, that a man can have the right to practice this type of, to check if the wife is cheating on her, but the women doesn't have the same right. Now these practices stem from the Bible, so there is a lot of similarities in our Asian traditions and cultural practices. This is what I'm trying to bring out to you. The Western world labeled these rituals pagan, but they were biblical long before colonization, you see. So now let's look at divorce. How is divorce being done in West Africa or even in the Bible? So divorce, a man's right in both cultures. So we see that back then, pre-colonial era, and also in the Bible, only men has the right to divorce their wife, but women cannot initiate divorce. So men, for the most part, initiate divorce. So let's go into the book of Deuteronomy to buttress my point. Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 1. When a man has taken a wife and she finds no favor in his eyes, then let him write her a bill of divorce and send her out of his house. Before, they used to call it putting away. They don't use the word divorce. They just say, let him put her away. So this was never permitted for women at that time. And it was exactly the same in African tradition. The man could put away his wife and she returned to her family. Women were not given legal authority to divorce until colonial law changes things. Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this to see the similarities between the two cultures. You understand? The ancient Israelite and that of the West and Southern Africa. So in Matthew chapter 19, verses 8, Jesus said, Moses allowed you, the men, to divorce your wife because of the hardness of your heart. Now he acknowledged the practice that it's the man that has a legal right to divorce their wife. back in those days, and even pre-colonial era in West Africa. So there is no, if you go back and ask your great grandparent, do the women usually divorce their husband for in West Africa? No, because it's even a shameful thing for the woman to leave her husband's house at that point in time. You understand? So something else that I'm gonna point out is polygamy, a normal regulated covenant. Now let me go out and say this. Let me say this straight. Now, this is a sensitive topic because I've had a conversation with people before on this topic, and most of them kind of misunderstand my point of view. When I'm talking about polygamy, I'm not like trying to promote and say, oh, yeah, go get another wife or something like that. That is not what it is about. But this is to answer the question where we got this tradition from before the pre-colonial era. I know most of these traditions have already faded away, but I just want to connect the dot that what we was doing, what we was practicing was the same thing the ancient Israelite was practicing. So whatever it is that most of this thing we was practicing was scriptural. So that is the purpose for this point. Now, in Exodus chapter, so polygamy was not only practiced, it was regulated and protected by God's law. In Exodus chapter 21, verses 10 says, if he takes another wife, he shall not diminish her food, her clothing, or her marital right. The Bible never condemns polygamy. It honors righteous men who practice it. So we're going to see people like Abraham, that is Genesis chapter 16, verse 1 to 4, Jacob, Genesis 29 to 30, Moses, Numbers chapter 12, verse 1, David, 2 Samuel chapter 5, verse 13, Solomon, 1 Kings 11:3. Likewise, polygamy was widely practiced among most African people. Among the Yoruba, a man with many wives was respected. The Zulu of Southern Africa honor kings with multiple wives. In Igbo culture, the first wife held seniority, but others had their right protected. Now, colonial religion demonized polygamy, but the Bible never banned it, and our ancestors embraced it because they were Israelite. Now, the ancient Israelite and that of the West African practices concerning these are so similar. You see, you cannot see this is not a coincidence. So there is a striking similarities between our tradition and that of the ancient Israelite. This is why I come to the conclusion that we are the same people, that the ancient Israelite are our ancestors. So now, so that being said, our practices today, our culture was never, before pre-colonial era, we practice, our culture was never influenced by Christianity. I will say this, what we practice as Christians today has nothing to do with the Bible, is European culture for the most part. Because now we talked about the traditional, the way we conduct our traditional marriages, or better put it in this way, that our marriage rituals is different from that of the white people. So if we actually inherit those practices from the white people, right, they will also be practicing it, which they are not doing it. So if you take a look at their marriage rituals is different from that of the West African people, and we can see there is a similarities. And now you have the white wedding, uh, and of course you have the traditional wedding. So that alone explains a lot of things why we have two weddings. But it was never so before pre-colonial era, before the white people invaded our land. So our culture is not the same thing as theirs. So the things that we learn from them now, it's a white man's traditions that was morphed into Christianity. So, and that's what we are actually practicing.
From the bride price to the veil, to the rituals, the divorce, to polygamy, the traditions of West Africa are not just similar to the Bible, they are the Bible. This is not a coincidence. This is not this is not limitation. This is identity. The evidence is overwhelming. West Africans are the ancient Israelite.
You see, there is no dice in it. We are the same people. Learn the truth for yourself. Thank you for watching. If you believe our people deserve to know the truth, help us reach more souls. Like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next episode of Connecting the Dot. We are not just teaching history, we are restoring identity. Shalom.